Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are really getting into the weeds on a model that's generated a lot of buzz and, frankly, a lot of complexity. We're doing a deep dive into ONPASSIVE and Go founders, specifically their financial claims and the whole ecosystem structure they're promoting. Our goal today, it's really to cut through the hype. We want to synthesize what they're claiming in their promotions, look at what third-party analyses are saying, and outline the risks involved. Basically, we want to give you a clear picture of what income they're promising, and just as importantly, what conditions absolutely have to be met for those promises to, actually happen. And the structure itself, it's kind of fascinating, isn't it? It's all built on leveraging network growth geometrically. The numbers they throw around, they're designed to make you stop and listen. We're going to unpack these projections figures reaching apparently hundreds of thousands of US dollars a month in some places under ideal conditions. When you hear numbers like that tied to passive income, that's where you really need to understand the mechanics behind it all. It gets very interesting.
It really does. And that's the critical starting point, isn't it? When you see firms suggesting, potential millions annually from a network structure, the immediate question shouldn't just be, wow, but hang on, how? How is this thing engineered to potentially produce that? What are the dependencies? What has to hold true in the real world? Our focus here is purely on analyzing the model, the structure, the claims. Not endorsing them, we need to look past the headline numbers. We have to examine the underlying engine, the required stability, the external factors that need to fall into place.
Okay, let's unpack that engine then. Step one. If you're in this system as a founder or an affiliate, how does the money actually flow? It's not about one-off sales, is it?
No, exactly. The whole premise, the foundation of this, is built on recurring income, residual income. That's the key term.
Yeah.
It's generated from ongoing payment subscriptions, packages made by people in your network. This isn't just a one-time commission. It's supposed to be a continuous stream long after you might have recruited someone. That's the leverage potential they talk about.
Right. The recurring part is crucial for that compounding effect they promise. Let's break down those payment levels, the tiers.
Absolutely. So the income comes from these recurring payments. The sources detail a tiered system, often called matrix tiers or packages. You've got distinct price points. Typically, you hear about $25, $125, $250, and a $500 level.
So as an affiliate, you're essentially selling access to. Is it a product suite at these levels, or is it just the right to earn commissions tied to these fees?
It's presented as both, really, which brings us to this idea of cumulative earning. The commissions are recurring monthly, or, as long as the subscription is active. That's key for the passive income idea. Now, about the tiers. If you're in a higher tier package, you can earn commissions from all the lower tier activity happening below you in the network. That's the cumulative earning piece.
Okay, can you give us a quick example? How does that cumulative earning work in practice?
Sure. Let's say you subscribe at the top, the $500 package. Okay, now imagine someone way down in your network, maybe 5 levels dip, buys the basic $25 package. You, at the $500 level, would earn a commission on that $25 recurring fee. But here's the catch. If you had only subscribed at, say, the $125 level, you'd get commissions from the 25 and 125 activity below you, sure, but you'd completely miss out on any commissions generated from people buying the $250 or $500 packages in your downline. So the higher your own package, the wider the range of income you can potentially tap into from your network.
Ah, okay. That makes it immediately clear why there's a strong push for people to get into those higher tiers, maybe even regardless of whether they need all the tools at that level.
Yeah.
It's about maximizing commission potential.
Exactly. It incentivizes upgrading.
Now, to make that kind of income compound across potentially thousands of people, you need a very specific structure, right?
Yeah.
A network architecture.
Indeed. And that leads us to the mathematical core, the multi-level or matrix structure. The system uses a very rigid 3x10 forced matrix. That structure is key. It dictates placement and depth. The 3 means each person, founder, affiliate, whoever, can only have 3 people directly underneath them. That's it, a fixed limit.
So if I'm good at recruiting and I bring in 5 people, that 4th and 5th person can't sit on my first level.
Correct. They must fall somewhere else further down in the structure. That's the forced aspect. And the 10, that refers to the depth. The network builds down through levels, typically described as going 10 levels deep. And that's where the numbers get, really big. Let's just think about the geometry for a second. Level 1, 0.3 people. Level 2, 3 times 3, so 9 people. Level 3, 27. Keep going. Level 5 has 243 spots. But level 10, just that single level, the 10th level down, it has space for 59,049 people.
Wow, okay. Over 59,000 just on the 10th level. So a full 3x10 matrix holds, something like 88,500 people in total?
Roughly, yes. Over 88,000 positions in a fully populated 3x10 structure.
That scale certainly helps explain the potential for those huge income projections, but it also highlights the sheer volume of recruitment needed to even get close to filling it.
Precisely. That total capacity is fundamental. And that constraint, only 3 direct recruits per person, is what enables the third key mechanic here: spillover.
Right, spillover. If the best recruiters are bringing in way more than 3 people, those extra recruits have to go somewhere. Where?
Spillover is how the system handles that excess recruitment. It happens when recruits could be yours, could be from someone above you, your upline, exceed that 3-person limit on a particular level. Since the matrix has to place them, if there are open spots underneath you in the structure, these excess recruits can get placed there.
And this is often pitched as the magic bullet for passive income, isn't it? Earning from people you never even met.
It's definitely a major selling point. It makes the force matrix appealing, especially for people who maybe aren't strong recruiters themselves or don't want to be. It means, theoretically, you could earn commissions from those recurring package fees from people placed under you through spillover, benefiting from the efforts of others above you. It's designed to help you fill your matrix, potentially with minimal personal recruiting effort if you're positioned well. So if you put all these pieces together, the force matrix, the cumulative tiers, the spillover, the whole model is designed for maximizing leverage from a huge, ideally fast-growing network. And the big claim, according to the sources, is that the greatest advantage goes to those who got in early, the founders.
And that high leverage and rapid scaling potential, that's really the heart of the promise, isn't it? Moving away from earning based on your direct effort towards something nonlinear.
Exactly. Non-linear growth. That's the dream. Once a founder, hypothetically, gets into a part of the network that's filling up quickly, the model suggests their earnings could grow exponentially. Why? Because the number of people paying those recurring fees grows massively across those 10 levels beneath them. Your returns compound, potentially, without you needing to increase your personal effort proportionally. The structure itself does the heavy lifting, supposedly.
And this isn't just designed for one town or one country. The ambition is global, which obviously increases the potential size dramatically.
Absolutely. It's promoted as a worldwide ecosystem, targeting a massive user base, allowing referrals from many countries. And that global scale assumption is crucial. Think about it, filling an 88,000-person matrix requires a huge pool of potential recruits. You couldn't realistically do that just within a small region. So the global market aspect is necessary to even make the nonlinear growth claims plausible on paper.
Okay, let's get to the elephant in the room, the specific projection figures. These are the numbers that get shared around, the ones representing the absolute best case perfect world scenario.
Yeah, and we have to be really clear here. These are theoretical maximums. They're based on models assuming near-perfect conditions like the matrix filling completely and everyone staying active. The sources often highlight specific countries to make the potential feel more concrete. For example, for Kenya, some promotional materials project a potential maximum monthly income, assuming everything goes perfectly high adoption, full matrix, of up to USD $323,656 per month, which annually is nearly $3.9 million.
Okay, hold on. $323,000 a month. That's
Right.
staggering. But it requires that perfect fill, right? Let's put that in context. If you compare that to, say, the average income or GDP per capita in Kenya, it seems astronomically high. Is that number representing a realistic market outcome, or is it just the mathematical limit of the structure itself?
That's precisely the right question to ask. It's fundamentally a calculation of the structure's maximum output. You take the number of slots, 88,000 plus, maybe multiply by a high package fee like $500, then apply some commission rate. It shows what the structure could generate if perfectly optimized. It's not necessarily forecasting likely success based on local economic realities or actual market demand. It's a structural maximum. And to show the sensitivity, the sources also mention a lower scenario for Kenya, even if you assume only, say, 10% adoption. The projected monthly income in those models is still shown as quite substantial, around $32,438 per month. That massive drop from over $300 down to $32K with just a change in adoption assumption shows how incredibly sensitive these projections are. Small changes in reality have huge impacts on the outcome.
And we see similar big numbers cited for other places too. What about Morocco?
For Morocco, the sources mention a maximum projection under similar high adoption scenarios of up to USD $86,875 per month. Again, these figures are used to showcase the leverage, the power of the matrix combined with global reach.
Let's pivot slightly from the pure numbers to the claimed benefits for the early joiners, the founders. What specific advantages are they said to get?
The biggest one is timing. Being early supposedly secures you a better spot in the overall matrix structure, higher up. And being higher up means you're potentially positioned to receive more spillover sooner as the network grows beneath you from the efforts of those above. It accelerates your downline growth, in theory. Founders are also sometimes mentioned as getting potentially better commission rates or maybe exclusive bonuses like credits for beta testing the tools.
Okay, and beyond the direct income, there's this whole aspect of automation and cost savings. They bundle in a lot of tools, right?
Right.
Which is supposed to cut down on business expenses.
Exactly. Founders are said to get access to a suite of digital marketing tools, often described as AI-powered and plug-and-play. Things like email marketing systems, sales funnels, video conferencing. They mention OConnect specifically. The argument is, having these tools included means you don't need to pay separately for third-party services like MailChimp or Zoom or hire marketing staff. This reduces your overhead costs, which in turn could mean a higher net profit on whatever commissions you do earn.
And it's meant to be easy to use, lowering the barrier to entry for people without tech skills.
That's a consistent message, low skill barrier. Automation handles a lot, supposedly making it accessible. You don't need to be a tech whiz. This broadens the appeal, suggesting you could even run it alongside a job, fitting the passive income narrative.
And finally, what about bonuses and multiple revenue streams? Is it just the matrix commissions?
Apparently not. Founders are sometimes described as more than just affiliates. They're called sharers in company profits, eligible for special bonuses beyond the basic matrix pay structure. The sources mention things like special credits for being early adopters or beta testers.
And there was something about not even having to pay for the tools?
Yes, that's a particularly interesting claim. The idea of free use of the product suite, like OConnect. The suggestion is that founders might not need to pay out of pocket for these tools once things are running. The costs might be covered by the company or maybe deducted from earnings or credits generated within their account, their wallet. Removing operational costs like that would, again, theoretically boost the net profit potential significantly.
Okay, this is where we need to shift gears. We've heard the potential, the structure's elegance, those eye-watering projections, 86Ks in Morocco, 323K in Kenya. But those numbers, that whole system, it all hinges on some massive assumptions being true in the messy real world. What absolutely must happen for any of this to work as claimed?
Right. The first, and arguably the biggest, dependency is simply core market adoption and retention. Without people joining and staying, the whole thing collapses.
You can have the most perfect 3x10 grid on paper, but if it's empty or full of inactive accounts, the recurring revenue is zero.
Exactly. It's not just about getting people to sign up. It's about them staying active and, crucially, consistently paying those monthly package or subscription fees month after month. Think about retention rate. If people drop out faster than new people join, especially in those deeper levels, 7, 8, 9, 10, which hold most of the volume, then the matrix never fills. Or worse, it starts emptying from the bottom up. The compounding effect reverses. Income shrinks.
Which leads directly to maybe the most critical point, the products themselves. They have to be more than just a reason to pay the fee, don't they? They need real value.
That's the second pillar, genuine product demand. The tools, OConnect, the funnels, whatever else they have to be delivered, first of all. And they need to be good, competitive, useful enough that people would want to pay for them even if there wasn't an affiliate commission structure attached. If the only reason someone buys a $125 or $500 package is to qualify to earn commissions from others doing the same, well, then the revenue is entirely dependent on recruitment.
That feels like a really important distinction, especially when regulators look at these kinds of models.
It's often the defining line. Is the money coming from selling valuable products to end users, who might be affiliates but value the product itself, or is it primarily coming from fees paid by new recruits? If it's the latter, the system is inherently fragile. You need that external demand for the products to provide stability. The recurring revenue needs to be justified by product value.
Okay, assuming the products are great and people want them, what about the internal workings? The company itself needs operational and financial stability.
Absolutely critical for long-term income. First, compensation plan stability. It needs to be transparent and reliable. If the company suddenly changes the rules, cuts commission rates, increases package prices, alters how payouts work, the whole basis for a founder's financial projections evaporates. Trust is broken. Second, cost management. The fees, the package costs, they have to remain reasonable compared to the income people are actually generating. If costs become too high for too many people, they'll leave, churn increases, and the matrix weakens.
And what about spillover? It sounds great, passive income, but it's not guaranteed, is it? It depends entirely on other people's actions.
That's the catch with spillover. The whole system relies on effective spillover actually happening for you. placing people in your specific empty slots, starting with those first 3 crucial spots. But that's never guaranteed for any individual. You could land in a part of the matrix where the recruiters above you slow down, or the recruits spill into other branches, not yours. If you're in a slow-growing section, that promised passive income from spillover might just never show up in a meaningful way, no matter how big the overall network gets. It's a dependency you can't control.
And then there are the external constraints, things totally outside the company's control, like market realities.
Yeah, the real world bites back. Promoting globally sounds great, but it introduces huge variables. You've got fierce competition from established tech companies with similar tools, often cheaper or better known. There's the risk of market saturation, especially after the initial hype wave. How many people realistically need or want these specific tools? And critically, huge differences in local purchasing power. That $500 monthly package might be feasible for some in the US or Europe, but it could be completely out of reach for mass adoption in places like Kenya or Morocco, the very markets cited for those huge potential numbers. If local economics limit adoption to, say, 5% instead of a modeled 50%, those income projections just plummet.
And the sources emphasize timing risk, too. Getting in early is presented as vital.
Yes, heavily. The implication is that the window for maximum benefit, the best matrix placement, the most potential spillover is limited. If you join late, the prime spots are likely already taken. Your potential is significantly reduced from the start. For anyone listening, that suggests the model, at least in terms of achieving those top-tier results, isn't designed to be equally advantageous for everyone indefinitely. It favors the early adopters exponentially.
Okay, so now we really need to focus on the friction points, the counter-arguments. We've laid out the potential, the ideal scenario. But when you look at third-party reviews, the concerns raised, where are the biggest risks? What could stop people from realizing those benefits?
Well, the most obvious one seems to be product delivery and utility. You can't earn commissions on subscriptions if the products people are subscribing to aren't actually delivered or aren't any good. That's consistently flagged as a major risk. Multiple reports and reviews indicate that the company has faced challenges in fully launching or delivering many of the promised products, or delivering them at a level that's truly competitive. If key tools like O-Connect or the marketing suite are delayed, buggy, or just don't offer compelling value compared to existing alternatives, well, why would people keep paying the monthly fee? If the product doesn't provide enough value to justify the cost, people won't renew. And the recurring revenue stream, the heart of the model, dries up. It becomes unsustainable.
And if the products aren't the main draw, the whole thing risks looking like it's overly reliant on recruitment dependency, right?
Exactly. The danger is that the model becomes less about selling products and more about selling the opportunity to earn money by recruiting others who also pay fees. This gets especially risky if the product utility is low. If the main reason people pay is to qualify for commissions, then the system needs constant, fresh recruitment to pay the existing members. When that recruitment inevitably slows down because all exponential growth eventually plateaus the incomes, streams can collapse quickly, falling far short of those big projections. And, as we said, that distinction between product sales revenue and recruitment-driven revenue is critical from a regulatory standpoint.
What about the individual founder? Even if the system works for some, is there a risk of personal financial erosion? Losing money?
Oh, definitely. That's a very real risk, especially for people persuaded to buy into the more expensive packages, like the $500 tier. You might buy in expecting significant spillover and rapid downline growth, but what if it doesn't happen? What if your section of the matrix grows slowly, or not at all? Meanwhile, you're potentially paying that $500 recurring fee every month. Even if initial fees are covered by credits, eventually real money might be needed. If your earnings don't cover those costs, you're operating at a net loss. You're paying for the privilege of being in the system, hoping things will eventually turn around. That can be financially draining.
That financial risk, combined with the recruitment dependency concerns, inevitably leads to questions about regulatory and legal uncertainty. Are there specific mentions of scrutiny in the sources?
Yes, the source materials do note that third-party reviews have raised flags. They mention claims that the system might be under review or investigation by financial regulators in various places. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is specifically mentioned as a body whose scrutiny might be relevant.
And why the SEC? What's their potential concern?
Bodies like the SEC often look closely at network marketing or MLM structures. The key question they ask is the one we keep coming back to. Is this primarily a system for selling legitimate products or services to actual consumers? Or is the compensation plan primarily rewarding participants for recruiting other participants who are required to pay a fee or buy inventory packages to join? If regulators determine it's the latter, the system could be classified as an illegal pyramid scheme. Any serious investigation, let alone legal action, could immediately halt operations, freeze assets, and completely derail any payout promises, regardless of how well an individual's matrix looks on paper.
So that regulatory acceptance or lack thereof is maybe the biggest single external risk hanging over the whole thing.
It's a massive variable. The entire long-term stability depends on the business model being deemed legally compliant.
Okay, finally, let's talk about the gap between the dream and the reality for most people. Transparency and typical earnings.
This is crucial. There's often significant ambiguity in promotional materials about exactly how bonuses are calculated, how stable the compensation plan really is long-term, and most importantly, what the average or typical participant actually earns. We spent time on the theoretical maximums, that $323K a month figure, but that represents the absolute pinnacle, the 0.001% under perfect conditions. It's an outlier. The counterpoint, the reality check, is that earnings shown in marketing are almost always best-case scenarios. They are not representative of the typical experience. In almost any multi-level structure, even entirely legal ones, the vast majority of participants earn very little. Many earn minimal commissions, barely covering costs, or even operate at a small net loss after accounting for fees and expenses. Understanding the difference between the theoretical maximum and the verifiable typical earnings is absolutely vital for anyone considering getting involved. Managing expectations is key.
So after digging through all this detail on OnPassive and Go founders, what's the takeaway for you, our listener? We've looked at a model that's undeniably designed for high leverage. It promises residual passive income through this very structured 3x10 forced matrix, and it backs that up with some truly attention-grabbing potential income figures.
I think the critical synthesis, the main point to grasp, is the huge gap. The chasm, really, between the mathematical potential of the structure and the commercial and regulatory realities required to make it work. That potential for six-figure monthly incomes, the residual aspect, the spillover, it all relies on a perfect storm of conditions. You need the products to be delivered, to be excellent, and to have genuine demand outside the affiliate network itself. You need spillover to land perfectly in your matrix. You need sustained recruitment and retention globally, and you need ongoing regulatory acceptance.
So the cleverness of the matrix, the geometry of it, is almost secondary. It's totally dependent on all these external factors lining up perfectly. The engine design might be impressive, but it needs the right fuel and a clear road ahead.
Precisely. The structure is an engine built for scale, but the fuel has to be real sustainable revenue from happy customers who value the products enough to keep paying for them month after month. If that core commercial value isn't there, or if regulatory issues arise, the structural design itself becomes fragile, no matter how appealing the math looks initially.
The source material mentioned these incredibly detailed breakdown sessions, like 100 minutes long, supposedly covering strategy, risk, and even actual member earnings. So for you to think about further, here's our final provocative thought. Given the very high numbers projected in the promotional materials we've discussed, and the global scale of these claims, what independent, verifiable evidence exists right now, not from the company's marketing, but from objective third-party sources showing what the typical median participant in this system is actually earning today compared to those initial, highly optimistic projections? How wide is that gap between the promise and the reality in today's market? That difference is perhaps the most telling indicator of the